Fallout 4 has added to the series as not only a great open world role-playing game, but also as an incredibly well-built first-person shooter. This build is the perfect way to get a real FPS fix while still staying in the amazing world that Fallout has created. The soldier has a strength of 4, perception 4, endurance 7, charisma 1, intelligence 5, agility 7 and a luck of 1. A strength of 4 will get us a couple of the perks we want and also helps to show that the soldier is in good physical shape. Perception has been set at 4, and once we grab the bobblehead at the start of a game it will be at 5. We don't use that as much, but the added accuracy can be helpful for when you do. Primarily this is here for Demolition Expert, an incredibly powerful perk that is also great fun to use. Endurance is sat at 7. This is purely to make the soldier nice and tough. He needs to be able to take a fair few hits, and we want him to last out any firefight he goes into. Charisma is way down at 1. Following orders and saying yes sir doesn't take much in the way of charm. An intelligence of 5 not only shows that he isn't an idiot, but will help with leveling and customization. Agility is at 7, purely to help us with the run and gun style of gameplay that suits this character perfectly. Luck isn't needed at all for this build, so it's our second dub stat. The essential perks for this build are Commando, Gun Nut and Demolition Expert. You will be using several different automatic weapons throughout the game with this build, so Commando is absolutely essential. As well as increased damage, it will also give you increased hip fire accuracy and a chance to stagger, which is an awesome benefit to have. You'll be using a ton of different guns, so you will need Gun Nut. Demolition Expert is a very powerful perk, and this build will always want to be stocked up on frag grenades to deal with large groups of enemies. The recommended perks I've included are Armourer, Heavy Gunner, Science, Action Boy and Moving Target. Having the Armourer perk makes it far easier to improve what you're wearing. Although you can potentially scavenge the different pieces you need, it's far easier just to make most of the stuff yourself. Heavy Gunner is going to add some devastating firepower to this build. I'd only advise carrying around a single big gun with you, due to their high weight, but having one that you can pull out when the situation gets tough is going to help you no end. Science is going to open up a few more modding options for you with all of your gear. Depending on what weapons and armour mods you prefer, this may not be necessary for you, but it can be quite handy to have. Action Boy is going to give you better action point regeneration. This combined with a third rank of Moving Target makes sprinting around the battlefield blissfully easy. Whilst you're sprinting you'll also gain extra resistances, making you even harder to kill. The role-playing perks for this build are Life Giver, Chem Resistant, Medic and Quick Hands. Life Giver is just a handy little perk that will give you health regen at the 3rd rank. I put this here as it reminds me of the sort of regen you get in a lot of FPS games. Chem Resistant will let you use chems without any real risk. The only one that I used was Jet, and the main way in which I used it was to recreate a sort of breach and clear situation. If you've ever played through a Call of Duty campaign in the last decade, then you will remember going through a door at some point and having to shoot a handful of enemies in slow motion. This perk helps to let you do the exact same thing in Fallout. Medic is a logical perk to add to the build. The soldier would have received at least some first aid training with the military, so knows how to patch himself up. In addition, Medic is better the higher your endurance, due to the fact that Stimpaks heal a percentage of your health instead of a set amount, meaning you get more bang for your buck if you have a higher number of hit points. Quick Hands will add to the speed of this build. Although it's not really a perk you need, it is quite nice to be able to rapidly reload all your guns. The soldier came from a military family. Just about every one of his relatives was either serving in the army or had served at some point. It was inevitable that he would join the army, and as soon as he left school he enrolled. He excelled in every element of combat. He was smart enough to understand complex strategies, tough enough to keep going after sustaining minor wounds, and fast enough to navigate the battlefield effectively. Despite not being defined by any one trait, he was well skilled enough that his commanding officers knew that they needed to maximise his potential as a soldier. The soldier was sent to a West Tech facility to receive an experimental drug trial designed to vastly improve the effectiveness of US soldiers. Being ever loyal to the army, he didn't even question this decision, and with a simple "yes sir," underwent the procedure. There were several other individuals who underwent testing at the same time as him, and all of them were injected with the same drug to see what effects would take place. For the soldier, it initially made him lose consciousness, and it was several hours later when he woke up in a hospital bed, alongside some of the other test subjects. He noticed that there were far fewer of them in the hospital than there had been in the testing facility, but he thought nothing of it. An officer and a young lady approached him and explained that the test had been a success. He was now stronger, faster, and more powerful than he had previously been. He was instructed to arrive at a training course at 0600 hours the next day. Despite having been in a hospital bed the previous day, the soldier turned up to the course as instructed, seemingly fully healed from the procedure. He ran the course in record time, rapidly eliminating all the targets and beating the previous record by an astounding margin. Impressed with his performance, the officer from the previous day assigned him to a new squad, formed out of the members of the drug trial. The squad was sent out to combat almost immediately, and they performed exceptionally as a team, each of them being well-trained soldiers who were near superhumans thanks to the mysterious drug they had taken. The soldier himself felt immensely proud that he was able to serve his country so well, and never once questioned any of the orders that he received on the squad. No matter the target, no matter what strange events may have taken place, not even once did he utter anything more opinionated than the phrase, "Yes sir." It wasn't until the final mission that the squad took part in that he finally began to notice that something wasn't right. The squad were advancing towards an enemy outpost, providing support for a couple of other squads who were stationed nearby. His squad's job was to simply soften up the target enough that the remaining squads could take over the outpost with minimal casualties. They had positioned themselves at a flanking position to the base, and were dispatching any enemy soldiers who were foolish enough to move out of cover. A signal flare was sent up to tell the other squads to advance, and upon seeing the additional reinforcements, the Chinese soldiers were smart enough to flee the outpost. The squads took a moment to celebrate their success as they moved through the base, ensuring it was completely clear and safe to move in. The squads all converged upon the centre of the base after they had done a sweep of the rest of the rooms, and at this point one of the members of the soldiers' squad started coughing uncontrollably. Blood was pouring out of his mouth at an alarming rate, and everyone around him was paralysed with fear. The coughing man looked up towards the soldier with eyes that were aware that he was about to die. Surrounded by his fellow soldiers, and yet unable to be saved, the man exploded from within. Blood, bone, and various bits of a man's uniform were scattered over the room and onto all of the surrounding soldiers. The fragments of the man's skeleton were sent flying at such a speed that they impacted into those standing closest to him, killing several and wounding the rest. The soldier himself took a blow to the head from the explosion, but was tough enough to be able to survive. He woke up in a hospital bed and was greeted with a similar sight of the same officer from before, telling him that there had been an IED in the room and he was lucky to survive. For the first time in his career, the soldier protested. He told the general that couldn't have been the case. He had seen the man explode from within, and asked how such a thing could happen. The officer said nothing and left the room, leaving the soldier alone with his thoughts. Despite making a full recovery, the soldier was told upon leaving the hospital that he was no longer fit for active duty and was honourably discharged. His protests of this decision fell on deaf ears, and he was forced to live as a civilian. As with what happens with many soldiers, he had a hard time adapting to this lifestyle. The event left him suffering from PTSD, and he woke every night seeing the same image of his fellow squad mate and friend exploding from within. He was fortunate enough to meet a female lawyer who was understanding enough to try and help him, and they would eventually marry, have a son, and move to Sanctuary Hills. There is only one faction you will want to join with this build, and that is the Brotherhood of Steel. The soldier is perfectly suited to the military life, so will jump at the chance to join up with the post-war military faction. He may have been kicked out of the pre-war army, but he is determined to try and do his duty once more. In terms of companions, I'd suggest either grabbing MacCready or Paladin Dance. Either work well due to their military background, but for Brotherhood missions you'll usually want to grab Dance. For your weapons, you will want a variety of powerful automatic guns and big guns. Specifically, you will want a combat rifle and a combat shotgun, an extended ripper, and a ton of fragmentation grenades. For legendaries, I'd recommend the Overseer's Guardian and Justice, but other than that, just grab the best legendary drops you get. Throughout the game, I used a variety of different guns, and the key to this build is to have weapons for any situation, so keep hold of all the good automatics and big guns you can get your hands on. The armour for this build will be the Destroyer's helmet, left leg and right leg. The helmet itself isn't great, but the Destroyer's left and right legs will each grant 10% faster movement, letting you move across the battlefield at incredible speed. As a side note, I'm thinking about making a really fast build, using a ton of Sprinter's gear, so let me know in the comments if that sounds like an interesting idea to you. In addition to that gear, you will want combat armour on your chest piece and arms. As you progress throughout levels, you'll want to upgrade to sturdy and then heavy. Make all of your combat armour reinforced to improve resistances whilst keeping the military green colour. Underneath all of this, you will want to wear either military or army fatigues. Although this isn't a power armour build, don't let that stop you from using it if you want to. I'd recommend a full suit of T60 with military paint to make it look similar to the ones that you see just before entering Vault 111 at the start of the game. This build works great as a run and gun class. Sprint from cover to cover and overwhelm your foes with superior automatic weaponry. If you've ever played a first person shooter, then you can just play this build similar to how you would play that. Make sure to help out the Brotherhood as much as you can and always complete your mission objectives as effectively as possible. Thank you all for watching my latest build. As always, make sure to share this build with any Fallout fans you know, or even to any fans of COD or Battlefield that don't think they'd be into Fallout, just to show them that it's fun for everyone. Leave a like and comment below, and I'll see you all in my next video.